Hey there, folks. It's Reem again, back with some more Conquest content. Still in the 100 Kingdoms. This time I'm reviewing or overviewing the Chapter Mage and giving you a school guide on where to go to school with your mages. Alright, let's get into it. Okay, I thought it would be nice to do a quick little lore overview. Been reading more of the lore of Conquest. Share the quick blurbs of the Chapter Mage. Uh, the humans are considered the weakest practitioners of magic within IA. They have access to 4 different branches: geomancers, hydromancers, alomancers, and pyromancers. They're still extremely powerful on and off the battlefield, even though they're the weakest practitioners. They're rarely successful politically due to the personalities tied to the gift. Like, if you're a fire mage, the lore says, you're temperamental and impulsive. And all of these other schools also have things where, you're kind of brooding, or depending on your school, you're not very. There's no school of magic that's apparently, very charismatic and good at being political. They're mainly trained in chartered schools by the imperial court. However, it notes that the church does aggressively recruit those that they say have the divine spark, and therefore the church and the chapters are kind of enemies due to those two competing for the resource of those with the gift, as it's called. The lore also kind of teases, that there's other places that a human can learn how to be a chapter mage, or, have the effects of a chapter mage if you have the right knowledge and the right will and you know where to look. So, nice little tidbit there. Okay, let's get into it. First thing, just wanted to go over the model real quick. Here's my chapter mage. Forgive me for the potato quality photos and the paint job. I'm kind of an average painter, I would say. Average at best, I don't know. Just want to give an overview for people who are looking to buy it, the model that is. The resin model, beautiful model in my opinion. There wasn't much cleanup. Assembly was pretty easy, and it was a little tricky to paint. At least for me, the average painter, just due to like getting the cape underneath it after it's glued on, and the puffs on the sleeves and the pants, and some of the raised details on the like pant knees and shoes. It's all kind of frilly. It makes it very interesting, at least for me, to paint. But it was still a fun experience, and I really enjoy the model. Alright, now to the meat and potatoes of what the mage is actually in the game. So we're just looking at the stat block quick. I pulled it from their army builder online. Just going over it quick, you can see there: volley 3, clash 1, 3 attacks, 4 wounds, resolve 2, defense 1, evasion 0. In short summary, I've got a bullet pointed over on the right. They're terrible in melee, and they have terrible defense, so avoid duels at all costs. They're pretty good at shooting as we go further down, though. They have that volley 3 with barrage 4, range 18. So, doing between 4 to 5 dice hitting on 3s or 4s out to 18 inches is pretty good. Or 5 dice if you're at 9 inches, I should say. Wizard 6 seems pretty standard looking at other spellcasters in the game. 6 is pretty common. For a dedicated role, there's some that are higher, I believe, but 6 is good. What makes the Chapter Mage a little unique is they have basic spells. You can see them there. The Elemental Vortex and the Elemental Missile that every Chapter Mage has. But then you can choose a school between one of the 4: water, fire, earth, or air. You get access to spells within that school. So you get a little bit of list building variety, little levers to pull to change your Chapter Mage. And they're all free, so you don't need to weigh the cost of each school and what they do. The very bottom, you can see that they have only 2 units The restricted section is blank. I didn't even include it on the screenshot. They can take men-at-arms or mercenary crossbowsmen. The men-at-arms, I think, are kind of a trap. We'll get more into that. Crossbows, therefore, are just the better option. But part of why they're a trap is we'll jump back up just a bit, and you can see on the right side I have heirlooms and usable masteries. Heirlooms, there's nothing that really enhances your spellcasting ability, so no obvious picks there. There's nothing that you can take that increases your like volley or ranged attacks, so nothing really there. So that leaves you with defensive options for the most part. You can kind of make a meme and you could take a weapon, but as we've covered, Chapter Mage is not good in combat, so let's not throw points away. So heirlooms, kind of a trap. I think you're just going to end up spending more points to make a men-at-arms unit more defensible. Also, getting into the masteries. I highlighted the ones, she can take it from 3 different sections. I highlighted the ones that were at all usable or potentially usable, but as you can see, I've highlighted them all. Yellow or red is just, probably not good or definitely probably bad. So Art of War, pass a turn, essentially it's just a skip. Every turn you can do kind of useful, but it's like 30 points, so not that good. Get in position, which gives you forward force. That leans more towards the men-at-arms, I think, to get like your guaranteed in on turn 2 as a medium. Seems like a trap. I think it's also like 20 points. Seize the advantage. I actually have the reread. Better than I first thought, but it gives you +2 charging after entouraging across the battlefield. So that's a battlefield effect. So if you are running a lot of MSUs with characters, it might actually be interesting. Like if you have multiple noble lords with household knights, if you activate the lord and entourage into the knights are going to get +2 to their charges, so they're going to go up to charge or movement. They're going to get +2 to their charge, so they have like 9 plus a d6 for their threat range. So that's kind of interesting, but very niche, and it's just like another 20 or 30 points. Front of the line is like 20 more points, and that gives you bravery, which lets you ignore terrifying and not become or auto rally. Once again, it's another trap for men-at-arms to make them more defensible. Talented lets you choose 2 schools. I'll get into why I have that yellow as we go throughout the schools. And then protective glyphs is interesting but niche. It extends interference normally. A spellcaster, if it's within 10 inches of another spellcaster, if the casters are trying to cast spells, they have to have additional successes to succeed, just due to the interference of being close to another spellcaster. Well, the protective glyphs makes it so instead of having to be within 10 inches of the chapter mage, if the chapter mage is in with 10 inches of a regiment, that regiment then extends another 10 inches out for interference. So kind of interesting, but it's niche because not every faction brings a lot of spell casting. So if your local scene has a lot of spell casting, like a lot of Sorcerer Kings, maybe it's good for like 15 points, but I might just be dead a lot of games because there's no spell casting. Alright, next. So spell casting and scaling, a quick aside, just because scaling comes up quite a bit, I want to make sure newer players know what we're talking about in the current version of 2025 Argument of Kings. So when you're casting spells, you at base always need 2 successes. Otherwise the spell just fades or fizzles, doesn't go off. Scaling increases the number of successes you need up to max of 5. You can kind of look at the table to the left there, and you can see 3 additional successes if you're targeting something with 10 stands. 10 or more stands. And then also monsters require +1 success for scaling spells as well. So essentially the bigger the unit you have, the harder it is to cast the spell. So it's an interesting rule. I think overall it's good. It helps keep spells balanced. But, well, we'll get more into scaling as we go throughout the schools. So we're going to do the common spells. This is the one that every chapter mage gets for free. They teach it at all the schools. We have Elemental Missile. It's a range 12, so not the highest range, but target enemy regiment just suffers 3 hits. Auto cast. So you don't need to roll, so you don't need to worry about interference or any of that. It's a really sweet spell if your school doesn't provide any damage spells and you need to do damage, or if you need to get guaranteed hits on a pesky regiment with 1 or 2 wounds left. Like, you don't want to risk your damage spell not going off. You just want to make sure you get your 3 guaranteed hits. It's also important to note that magic damage also causes resolve, unlike volley attacks. So that 3 wounds could at max do like 6 if they fail all 3 hits and all 3 of their resolves. The other one that everybody learns is Elemental Vortex. That is range 12, attunement 4. Attunement is just the number that you need to roll equal or less than in order to count as a success. So in this case, you need to roll a 4 or less to count as a success. So if you get that spell off, target friendly regiment negates 2 successes from enemy spellcasters that target the regiment with a spell casting action. I didn't copy verbatim the spells as we go through, I just kind of gave the quick summary. But essentially, that's just a really, really, really powerful interference. Like, just taking 2 successes away instead of increasing is very strong. The problem, once again, as we see in the summary, is that both are nice. It's just that Elemental Vortex is pretty rare to use. I think maybe if you're going like fighting Sorcerer Kings or like Duegome, currently have a lot of spellcasters, like offensive spell casting, you might find use for the spell there. The next school that we have, so we're getting to the actual schools that you choose. So now you gotta start making choices. So your first option is School of Water, Hydromancer. You get 2 spells. You get Nunua's Tears. That's range 12, attunement 4, heal per success only to infantry. You're rolling 6 dice. That's what the Wizard 6 meant earlier. That's how many dice you get. At attunement 4, you're expected to get 3.96 successes. So you're expected to heal about 3 to 4 wounds. Not the greatest, and as we highlight here, it was better previously. Now kind of not worth it. Maybe if you can heal a big block of high value infantry like Gilded Legion, Steel Legion, buffed up unit of Household Guard. It was a lot better previously. It used to be 3 wounds plus the number of successes, so that alone like doubled what you're getting now. Previously before that, it would also target cavalry, which was way too strong because of Ashen Dawn and other heavy cavalry, so that was nerfed. I think that was a fail nerf. Getting rid of the auto heals, I think probably nerfed it a little bit too much, because now 4 wounds isn't that much. There's units that just have regeneration like 3, 4, 5 that they're just kind of getting for free, and you have to roll to do that and be within 12 inches. And moving on. Call Fog. Range 10, attunement 3. This has scaling. Target friendly regiment gets obscured, which halves the barrage value against enemy volleys. So if someone is shooting you with barrage 3, they're going to round down to 1.5, or they're going to go to 1.5, round up to 2. So it's having volley attacks against you. Pretty nice spell on paper, but once again has scaling. Because when do you want to use this spell? You want to use it to protect like big blocks of Household Guard, Gilded Legion, Men at Arms. But scaling is just going to make it harder to succeed, because as soon as you get 4, now you need 3 successes. Which you can still get fairly likely, like 66% of the time, something like that. But it would suck, to spend your action to cast a spell and have it fizzle. So the overall summary of the School of Water is, it's okay. As we'll kind of go through, You're going to see me highlight sometimes reactive is less than proactive. Water definitely suffers from that. It's like, you know, if I deal damage and don't die, then I can heal a little bit. Well, if I just kill the enemy so they do less damage, that would be better. Call Fog, if I go before the ranged unit goes with my mage, I can maybe protect another unit of mine if I get my spell off and I'm within 10 inches. Like, you're setting up a lot of if scenarios to maybe get a benefit. Next school. School of Fire, Pyromancers. We have Kindle Courage, range 12, attunement 3, also with scaling. You get +1 resolve until the end of round. Scaling makes it pretty as well, although scaling and resolve are kind of tied, so for every increase in scaling, they're also automatically getting like that much plus to their resolve. So if they're 4 stands, not only do you need 1 more success for scaling, but they naturally just get 1 more resolve. The problem is there's not a lot of units in Hundred Kingdom that have like a really poor resolve, except for like militia, and you won't have like an MSU or just a 3-stand unit of militia generally. And even if you do, it's also kind of like, do I want to use my action reactionary to make it so that if I go first and target the unit and my spell goes off and my unit gets attacked and they suffer damage, it helps them a little bit not suffer the resolve damage. There's like 4 ifs in that. Way too many. Way too reactive. Fire Dart, range 16, conveniently also the range of a crossbow volley attack. Attunement 4, 1 hit at armor piercing 1 per success on enemy regiment. So once again, you get that like 3.9604ish damage, expected with armor piercing 1, and it also causes resolve. So pretty nice. This is where proactive's better than reactive. I can kind of slot it in wherever. I don't need to worry about getting a buff off before something happens. I just kind of get my damage in when I can get it in, and killing the enemy is a good thing to do in a war game. So it's very proactive. School of Earth, Geomancers, Earth to Mud, range 14, attunement 3, scaling. Enemy reinforcement may only charge on its first action, and they have a max of 2 actions. Once again, scaling is bad. If you have any unit of cavalry and it has the warlord or the character in it that's like unlocking it, so like household knights with a noble lord, it's going to be 4 in the unit, so you're going to have scaling, so you need 3 successes, lowering your ability to, or your chance to actually get it off. The range is short. There's a lot of things like you would have to move up to get into range, and you still might be in. Well, they can't charge on the second action, but there's some spells that give you an auto +5, and if it's short. You're probably not getting charged if you get it off. Is the problem? It's like if you move up and you do it and you get it off, you're probably not getting charged in that unit. But if you fail to cast it, that is, like, it doesn't go off, your unit might be dead just because they're gonna get charged. That's probably the biggest problem with this one. It's nice on paper if you get it off, but if you fail to cast, you put your mage in a very vulnerable position to seemingly stop something from charging that you really don't want to charge. Next spell is Stone Spikes. That's ranged 10 inches, attunement 3, also scaling. A friendly regiment gains pike formation until end of round. And pike formation is -3 impacts, and they can't inspire, or they lose inspired if they charge or attack your front arc. Once again, scaling is bad. It's a timing problem. Like if you're competing to go first for the round, because something's going to charge you, and you're not within 14 inches because you don't want to, risk getting charged to death if you fail, and you held back a bit, and you're like, I'll just do stone spikes to get pike formation on my unit that's going to get charged, negate the impacts. Well, most of your units in Hunter Kingdom, I don't think you're taking MSUs of, um, except maybe Cavalry. Like, Household Guard's going to be a big block, Gilded Legion's a big block, maybe a small unit of Men at Arms, but once again, it's very niche. Like, it's not being proactive at all, it's maybe helping you. Maybe. Also, the ranges here are kind of short, 14 inches, 10 inches, niche. Next school, Air. Alomancers? Seeking Winds, Attunement 3 scaling, friendly regiment gets aim shot. That would be the same as if the unit just, took the aim action. So do you want to spend your spell casting action to maybe do what the regiment could just do for free? Well, not for free, but guaranteed on itself. And it's scaling. And in 100 Kingdoms right now, you're kind of incentivized to go 4 stands in your regiments. That way your units can score potentially with light, because they'll get the benefit to being able to capture zones with their command stands because they're resolve. But that's getting into the 100 Kingdom in general. But a lot of the units that you would use this on, I think, would be size 4, which would just make it even harder to cast with scaling. The other option is Guide. 2-3, no scaling, range 12 inches. Friendly regiment rerolls failed hit rolls of 6 on a volley action until end of round. Hey, that seems good. Rerolling dice in a war game, very good. Problem is expected extra damage is poor. As an example, if we have 4 stands of longbows who aim and then shoot, not at effective range, so at like greater than 11 inches, you're expected to get 1 extra hit, just over 1 extra hit. So not good. Fire dart would probably do more damage if it was in range. Maybe it's fine, but probably not. No. I'd say you probably just want to go fire dart and just shoot them yourselves. Your mage would have to be way far back, like super in the back line, where the mage wasn't able to shoot, that you'd be like, I'll guide because it's the only thing I can do to project damage forward. So in summary, Seeking Winds is just poor timing and action usage, and I think Guide is a trap. I think most cases, if you had the Fire School Fire Dart, you're just going to do more damage. So final thoughts then on the Chapter Mage. I'd say that it's accurate to lore. It's not the most powerful. It's lots of niche. It's all about, nothing big flashy spells, but using the right effect at the right time could produce a very good result that could turn the tide of the battle. Sure. Men at Arms feel like a trap just because, like I said, I think you're just going to end up spending more and more points into a unit that makes it kind of an anvil. Kinda. That is just kind of a wet noodle hitting back. They're going to be, Clash 3, 4 attacks, maybe support if you make them veterans. No cleave, no way to get them cleave. Like, whatever they're fighting, they're not killing, more than likely, if it's like 2 blocks fighting each other. Before, when the Chapter Mage was healing 3 auto plus success, you could kind of grind them down. Like, you're not hitting hard, but you're healing back. Now that you don't get those free auto heals, it's just what you roll. It doesn't seem like that's an option anymore either. So, Men at Arms definitely feel like a trap. Crossbows with fire seems good. Play safe in the back. Fire darts the same range as your crossbows. Keep your crossbows in range. Keep your mage in range. Maybe going protective glyphs there, depending on your local scene. Like, hanging on the back, shooting things. If you have a lot of 100 Kingdoms, or not 100 Kingdoms, Sorcerer Kings, Dwagom in your local scene, spending out 15 points to interfere with some of their spells might be good. School rankings, common, the ones that everybody gets are actually pretty good. free auto hits or a pretty standard or a pretty strong, negation of spell casting against you. Waters C right now pretty poor. I think needs some tweaks. Fire A just because it has Fire Dart. Kindle Courage is pretty garbage, but Fire Dart, it's proactive. It's decent damage, so good. Earth is D just because both of your spells are scaling. They're both kind of short range. They both suffer from timing issues and they're reactive. And then F, or air is F just because I think it's more of a trap with guide. And their other spell is just replacing an action that a unit could take for free. And it's not like missile troops. I mean, maybe if you have Imperial Rangers who want the fluid formation, turn around backwards, shoot, and then move, they won't get the aim, but it's pretty niche, and just bringing a chapter mage for the effect of giving that scenario aim doesn't seem worth the points. Through it all, though, chapter mage is still my favorite character in Hunted Kingdom right now. Anytime I'm building a list, putting that chapter mage in with it's been more and more mercenary crossbowsmen. I used to have a lot of including her with 4 stands of men at arms in her and playing a little bit defensive, a little bit, hold the point if you need to, with a change to healing and just the other ways her utility spells are kind of niche and scaling and all that. I've kind of stepped away from that currently. Improvements. Do I think there's any improvements that need to be made? Well, if we're keeping to the lore, if that's the goal, it seems about right. Like, obviously not too strong, not too powerful, but like I said, do the right thing at the right time. Quite impactful. You can maybe lose scaling on some spells. You could gain an inch or two of range here and there. Maybe add 1 auto heal to the tiers instead of the 3. Maybe just bump it back a little bit. The other interesting thing I think we could do is just expand the regiment list. Giving her Gilded Legion as an option would probably be too good, just because she could take some of those defensive options that you're overspending on for men of arms. All of a sudden become pretty efficient when you take it with a Gilded Legion. Steel Legion as restricted could be kind of fun. If you I think throwing her in a unit of Steel Legion would be kind of funny. Steel Legion's main thing is that they are kind of glass cannons, not that defensive. So if you could get the chapter mage in there with a defensive heirloom, maybe a defensive mastery, maybe her utility spell to obscure so they're not getting shot by ranged attacks, maybe that works. And then the timing issue is kind of fixed because she can entourage with them. I don't know. Also, I just think there's a lot of room to grow with this character for maybe a new regiment to the game, like completely new regiment, the Skitari of the chapter mages or something, like some sort of mage bodyguard or some sort of acolyte, or not acolyte unit, like student unit, or I don't know. I'll leave it to the developers, but I just think increasing the roster a little bit, give them more flavor, more levers to pull in list building would be a good way to go with the character. But overall, still love the character. Lots of things to do. I just think right now you're kind of shoehorned into going fire in almost all cases, and like even the option to go talented to get 2 schools doesn't seem that good, just because you're spending 20 points to use spells that you're like, maybe 1 out of 10 games I'll use an earth spell or an air spell, or actually air spell like 1 every 20 games. It doesn't feel worth it. But still an awesome character. I just think that there seems to be a lot of options, but I think you're probably going to end up going fire, keeping her cheap, in a unit of crossbowsmen. Let me know if your thoughts differ, if you have a different way you play the mage. Like I said, my favorite character. I'm trying to find other ways to play her. I'm just not finding any success other than the crossbows fire mage right now.